Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It's April 29, 2025, and it's about 7 a.m. here in California. And I wanted to get on here today and introduce all of you to one of our newest rising stars on the telephone, and that is Mr. Andrew Purple, that I have invited on here this morning to share with all of you, a little bit of his background and a little bit of his story. And also I have one of our newest trainees, Amador Ramirez, on this morning.
Thank you.
So again, good morning to you guys, and thank you for joining.
Good morning. Thank you for having
me. And with that said, I want to start with you, Andrew. For all of you guys that are listening in, me and Andrew might have connected maybe 2 years ago, if I remember correctly, right, Andrew? A couple years ago or something like that.
Well, it was a year. It was last summer.
Last summer, right? And we talked about telesales, but nothing happened. And fast forward to 2025, here we are engaging in business. And I got to say that, when I first, talked to Andrew and I told him, hey, man, you got to pay up front for your leads. It wasn't something that, he took lightly, because not many people have $4,500 laying around. But, after a couple of days of him thinking about it, he jumped on the bandwagon, got himself his leads, and here we are today. So Andrew, before we jump into that, can you share with everybody just a little bit more of your background in terms of what you've been doing in the space of insurance?
Yeah, well, I've been in insurance for about 28 years. I started in Connecticut. I worked for Combined Insurance Company of America. Was there until about 2007 or 8, and we parted ways at that time with Combined, and I was looking for a home to do something, and I was approached to do final expense, and I was doing it face to face. It had some success with it for sure. There was no doubt it was paying the bills, and it was a lot of fun. Loved it. And as time went on, it just it started just wearing on me. A lot of drive time, beating the smithereens out of my car, a lot of miles. And I think when COVID approached, that's when the final hammer came down. And I said, this is a pretty simple business, and I can help a lot of families and people. But I wanted to be able to continue to do it. But that's when I turned to YouTube. And when I turned to YouTube, I kept on hearing about telesales, but I don't know. I just thought, who's going to buy this stuff over the phone? There's no way people buy this stuff over the phone. I heard everything negative over the years. You can't do this over the phone. So I was with that way. I guess I was one of the sheep back in, 2020. So, fast forward to last year, I really wanted to make a go of it, and watched a tremendous amount of YouTube videos, not only yours, Lauro, but other great people that I've spoken to that have other agencies, and did get hooked up with one or two of them, in the past last summer, and it was a learning experience. That is for sure. It was eye-opening that, hey, it is a little bit different over the phone for sure compared to face to face, and it's difficult for people to say, hey, Mr. Purple, I'm not interested, please leave my house, compared to just leaning over and hanging up the phone. So,
right.
So it was definitely challenging, but I knew I could do it. There was something in me that kept on saying, this has got to be able to work. I see all these people making a lot of money with it. I said, why can't I? So
that's right.
And here I am back with you, Lauro, and so far so good.
Right.
I can't complain.
With Combine, I believe with Combine, it was it a debit route you were running?
Well, yeah, what we did was we went door to door. I was sold to go door to door in small businesses selling an accident and sickness day one income policy. And Yeah, in the meantime, you had established accounts from agents in the past in those areas and over past years that needed we always renewed their premium in person.
You collect the
So,
premium. Wow, yeah, that's the real door knocker right there, for sure. That's
well,
your
they
real
were used to
neighborhood
it.
specialist.
Correct. People were used to it, though. They were used to seeing an agent once every 6 months come to their home or business to collect premiums. And that was the easy part. I felt like a paper boy again, back when I was 14, 13, 12 years old. I mean, that was just, talking and communicating with people. The real deal was going in and trying to find new accounts. And that's really where you got paid and made the good
Yeah.
money. So, great,
28 years,
but
man. That is definitely a uh, a good amount of time. I'm 21 years, so we're veterans, man. We've seen it.
yeah,
We've been there.
yeah.
The other day, I was talking about when I started selling insurance door to door. I started with the Thomasville Roadmap. I was an expert with that thing, man.
I hear that.
But um, but again, here we are. And the negativity on telesales, especially before 2020, I had my share of it, and everyone was concerned, right? The biggest issue was retention. Everyone said retention's horrible. It's not sustainable. But retention's horrible regardless if you're a door knocker or you're a phone guy. If you do a good job, people are not going to go anywhere. Remember, we're building what? Relationships. That's what it
Correct.
is. So now let
Correct.
me ask you this. So, we spoke a year ago and, nothing happened. And that's very common. I'm not looking to hire everybody.
Right.
I give people the information so they can make, an assessment based on that. And then if they can duplicate what we do, voila, let's move forward. But everyone is scared to death when it comes to the business of what we do. And that's obviously paying for your leads. And from my standpoint, I totally get it. That's why when agents, get nervous about paying for leads, I typically will not move forward because scared money is not good money, because they're so caught up on the fear that they don't focus on the training that we provide. But, in your case, can you talk a little bit about the training that, I provide the agents, and, what have you seen firsthand from seeing myself on the phone and just in general from the type of training that we provide?
Okay. Gladly. I mean, the biggest difference I seen with you compared to in the past, and again, I'm not knocking the people I worked with last summer. I mean, they were great people. It's just you were extremely transparent.
Yes.
You were definitely a show and tell, and that's how I was brought up in the business many, many moons ago, how Combine taught us. It was a show and tell type of thing. And when you see it and you can hear it and then witness and hear success and sales going on, you can say, yeah, I can do that. People have an idea like, yeah, I can do that, or no, I can't do that. But by seeing you do things with a simple presentation, senior life insurance company, simple portal to go through their presentation and application and the recording process at the end. I mean, it really isn't overly difficult whatsoever. So,
Right.
I do have a background because, I believe true selling really starts at the end when you go to the close and you ask the person for the money. I always expect, got to speak to the daughter, got to speak to the son. I got, my brother's uncle's cat makes my decision for me. Don't have the check yet. So, those are the things that, those responses on how you can turn I'm on the fence and I know I called in and I know I need this insurance to taking the leap and going the extra, last distance for their race to protect their family. So that's the way I look at it. And
Right.
that's what I witnessed with you when you allowed somebody like myself and other agents to follow you for a full day or for a couple hours when you were doing phone calls via Zoom. I mean, that was the hook, line, and sinker for me. I said, this
You know,
guy's tremendous Absolutely transparent. So
Right. And that right there is one of my biggest secrets to
Mhm.
my training success with people. Because we live in a society, right, that everybody wants to sell you a training plan,
Mhm.
but there's really not much there other than a textbook. And it's up to you to figure it out. But what's the difference when the guy that has the textbook is also showing you in real
right,
time?
correct.
Wow.
Wow,
That's a game changer because it elevates your learning curve because you're seeing it in real time.
correct.
Anytime you deal with a manager, right, and they're trying to show you something, sometimes people, they're like, does this guy really know what he's talking about? Let's see if he can handle this objection. Let's see how he handles that. Or let's see on a bad day if he can still smile.
Right.
Well, guess what? A true sales guy is going to show up rain or shine and smile rain or shine. And when people like yourself are able to see that salesmanship, like what you said, right? That was it for you. Now
That
you
was
knew that you can do it. You can
right.
duplicate it. And with that, let's talk about your closing. Last week, you took, I believe, 17 leads. You submitted, I believe, 6 applications for a production of 5,500, correct?
Just a little different. I had 19 billable inbounds, and I closed five for
Five.
5450. I think that's what it was, or 5540. I'm a little dyslexic this morning.
Okay, so you got how many? 5 applications you said out of 19?
You
Damn.
correct. 19 billable, yes.
Whew.
So let's look at your closing. Basically, your closing ratios 28%, 30%. Yeah,
Yes.
around there.
Yep.
And that number right there, ladies and gentlemen, not only pays the leads,
Mhm.
puts a little bit money in his pocket,
Mhm.
he's able to pay the IRS man. Simple. And I believe in your first week you got 2 commissions, right? Right out the gates.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the first week you got two of those deals paid out. You recovered your lead costs for that week. And here we are, week 2. And did he sell anything yesterday?
Yes. However, I had 2 billable inbounds yesterday. I did have about 6 calls, but they were cut short before, the 2-minute buffer. And I was 0 for 2. However, I did have a call back from last week that I called late in the afternoon at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, and he was waiting. He goes, I
That's
thought you
right.
did. You called me at 5, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I was busy, so I apologized to the guy, and he's a very nice individual, and sold one app for $1,224 in premium.
There
Annualized
you
premium.
go.
Right.
And again, today's Tuesday, and we got all week to make it happen.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a couple questions. Now, I know that you were doing telephone sales before. Now, you were doing outbound. Talk to us what you were doing and how those results compare to working an inbound strategy.
Well, obviously people are going to be different, but for me, when I first was doing telesales last summer, I was, yes, it was all outbounds. I had an appointment calendar. People could look at the ad. They could, schedule an appointment on my calendar, or they could call in, one of the other. But there was also a tremendous amount of leads that maybe looked at an application, they filled out a form, but they didn't schedule an appointment on my calendar, or they didn't call in. I was able to, law-wise, to call those people back. So it was all outbound. And what I just found was and it is 85% my fault after the first week or two. It's pretty discouraging sitting on the phone for 2 or 3 hours making mega dials and nobody picking up,
Yeah.
or 1 or 2 of them picking up. And these were people that did fill out some type of information thing on the internet. looking for life insurance, whatever it may be. You're absolutely correct that when you say 80% of the people just don't pick up the phone, that's what I was experiencing. And it just wore on me quick. And I said, even if I catch on with this, I said to myself, Andrew, you know what? You gonna be able to do this long term? Are you really going to do this week after week, month after month, just pounding, these people, these phone numbers that are coming in? And I'm not knocking it. There's people over there in that other agency. They're killing it. God bless them.
Right.
So, that's
You
just their,
know, right.
whatever toots somebody's horn, and that horn wasn't being tooted right for me.
Right. And that
So,
is the reality. I tell people all the time, it's not about being a negative Nancy.
correct.
Not, especially when we're in sales,
Correct.
but it's about being realistic. And I always tell people, 10 years ago when I was selling over the phone, I would buy 50 leads a week. And I knew rain or shine by Friday, 75% of those people had already picked up the phone and either, engaged with me in a conversation or told me to go take a hike. But I got some action out of it.
Right.
Nowadays, if I buy 50 leads, and let me take that back. Today, I don't buy no leads to make phone calls because 95% of those people are not going to pick up the phone. So now imagine if I paid, let's say I got those leads for $10, right? $10 Facebook leads. That's $500. And out of those 50, if only 90% of them, of 90% don't pick up the phone, that means that only 5 people picked up the phone.
Yep.
So $500 divided by 5, it cost me $100 to talk to those people. Plus
Correct.
the energy and the time that it took me to dial those people. There's no, again, for the people that are having a lot of success with it, they're dialing 200, 300 phone numbers a day minimum in order to get the traffic going.
Correct.
It just, I don't see it. And I've done it myself. In fact, my dialing speed is about 30 an hour. I got my dialing speed down to a science.
Ooh.
But the bad part about it is that over 90% of people don't pick up. And I text message them. I send them videos. I send them picture messages, everything I can to get them back on the phone. But eventually they pick up. It's like the one that you had yesterday. If you wouldn't have done your follow-up like we trained, be organized with yourself, with your calendar, you wouldn't have picked up that deal yesterday. No way.
No, probably not. No. Yeah, you're right. I
Because
agree.
most agents, right, they're not thinking of the whole picture. They're thinking of one dimension only. And that's leads, 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 leads. But what about follow-up? What about policy review? I love policy reviews. Because in policy reviews, I always find it that once they've already established the policy, they have it in their hands, they understand how their payment works, they understand how their policy works, it's easy to suggest an increase on their coverage. I mean, it's very easy. In my case, I always ask to see if they want to add it. And if they don't, I set up my next follow-up call 3 months down the road. Now I have another point of contact. Now down the road, I hit them up again. And then from there, every year, I hit them up a couple weeks before their birthday. Like you noticed in my follow-up playbook that I shared with you, right, Andrew?
A couple weeks before.
Correct.
Right before the birthday, I hit them up. Why? Because now that 2 week before the birthday is a good motivator, what? On the price discount.
Yep.
And I have found a lot of success doing that. So as much as I hate doing the follow-up, and the more you spend time with me, you'll notice I hate it. But there's a lot of things in life that we hate, but we do because it's a part of the package.
Correct.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't train and they don't show. For my commitment, when you mention about the fact that I train agents from the front and I do what I say I do, I think of these many years ago. I went to a conference. It was basically all insurance carriers. And I was invited there by some friends of mine that, own an insurance company. And in this conference, the carriers were talking about, that the average age of an insurance agent is, at that point in time, I'm talking about,
30.
let's see, what, 2008, 9, somewhere in there, long time ago. And they asked, the average agent is a 55-year-old male.
Hmm.
And one of the gentlemen says, why aren't we getting a lot of the youngsters into this business? And at the time, I was maybe 32 years old, so I was a pretty young guy.
Right.
And it hit me. I was like, man, this is a very good question. I've made a lot of money doing insurance. I've had tons of renewals over the years. I mean, who wouldn't want to do this? Especially if
Right.
you understand passive income. Made no sense. And then this other old timer gets up there and says, I have the answer for this. And he says, the sales distribution is broken, he said. And he says, when some of us that started in this business in the 60s and 70s selling insurance, when we started, we were actually doing what you were doing with Combined.
Right.
Knocking in the neighborhood, picking up premiums, doing policy service, setting up new accounts. That whole spirit of salesmanship and service was really number one. But with the invention of the IMO, they got away from what? That quality training that years ago,
Correct.
insurance company would do the hiring.
Correct.
They would do the direct hiring with the agent, but then came the independent marketing organizations that took that function away from them, hiring and selling. But when that happened, then the marketing and leads came in, and everybody started recruiting like madmen to distribute insurance. And when we started doing that, he said, we got away from what? Training, salesmanship, policy service. We got away from taking pride in what we do.
Correct.
Bro, it blew my brains, man. I said, damn, he's right. And I made a commitment right then and there. I said, you know what? Moving forward, I'm not going to hire more people than I can personally train or have my people that can train. I'm not going to hire more people that I can do it. Because at one point in time, I'd hire so many people a month. I'd hire over 100 people a month at one point in time at Senior Life. But to be totally honest, it was impossible to train everybody like I train you guys. Totally impossible. I would not be able to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it takes. I wouldn't be able to do it because I got 100 other people that are looking for my time, looking for the secret sauce, right?
Correct.
And that's what that gentleman was talking about. And if you think about it, I mean, think about it. We're older guys. All of us on here are older guys. But think about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's a total different. The insurance agent 30 years ago was a lot different than it is today.
Correct.
So from my position, for all of you guys listening, I take this training very serious. I understand that when you have to come out of pocket to pay for your leads, it's a big decision. I get it. But this is a business. And if you had a store, how can you have a store with 2 things in your store? You got to stack that store up with everything in it. Why? Because in order for you to have success, you got to have everything stocked in order for you to sell.
No doubt.
With us, our store is the insurance sales. And in our store, we have leads. We got to work through those leads to make our sales. The more leads, the more money. But one thing with leads, why people are so scared to death. They're scared to death because the fear of not recovering your money.
Yep.
No doubt.
That is the fear that paralyzes most of you. And I understand you. And believe me, I'm not the type of guy that's going to try to convince you to do something you don't want to do. That's one of the reasons I invite Andrew. I have Amador on here today because they're in your shoes. Whether they were in there a year ago, last month, but they've been there.
Yeah.
And my goal is for them to share with all of you what they've seen, what they've witnessed, and what they're experiencing. Now, with that said, thank you, Andrew, for your testimonial, man. I know it's going to help someone out there.
No, you're welcome.
In the world that can glean from your story. But now,
No problem.
Amador, again, you're new here. We've been training. But
Mhm.
can you share to everybody that's listening into this interview today what your experience has been with the training that we've been doing for the last few days now?
All I can say is it absolutely what Andrew Purple said. Lauro Herrera, he's transparent, he's kind, he's an honest man, um he's a diamond in the rough. Every morning he calls me, he texts me, and he really cares about my success. Um, every day I get a call, say, "Hey, Amador, how you doing?" You know, he motivates me to be the best insurance agent I can be. He's so transparent, like Andrew Purple said. Um, and he's a great motivator. The training is so um, transparent. It's step by step. Um, I've experienced being an insurance agent with I think Family First Life, and I've been licensed for a year, and I didn't make one sale. So I went on.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I know my upline. He's making like 100,000 in 6 months. He's making money, and I never really got that one-on-one that I really needed. And lo and behold, I saw the YouTube video. I saw how he plugged in the person's name, address, date of birth, and it was just so. I was like, I can do that. I can do that.
That's right.
You know.
And that right there is the power of it.
Mhm,
There's always like three things that people look at when they look at a opportunity.
mhm,
First is, who are these people? What do these people do? And then the third question is the most important one, is can I duplicate what they're doing? Those are like the three questions that people have. And you're hitting it on the nail, man. A lot of the companies that you mentioned and other companies, right, without dropping names, again, their model is recruiting.
mhm.
I go and recruit you, and I sell you the dream about how you're going to be a millionaire selling insurance. And it sounds great because they really sell on that opportunity. But then what happens? As soon as you sign the contract, dun, 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 either the manager disappears
Yep. Mhm.
or they reach out to you and say, all right, Amador, now I'm going to train you, but I need for you to put a list together of 100 of your friends, family, anyone
Exactly
in your sphere of influence that we can reach out and educate them on these financial products. And what do? Well, you start putting that list together the best you can. And then that's your training. They sell on your list. That's how they, generate their leads. That's how they generate their business. And hey, man, distribution is distribution, whatever. But the biggest issue, like I was sharing the story of that old timer, I think he was from Foresters, the sales system is broken. And it's broken when you don't train that person every step of the way. Because in what we do, there's a selling component, and that's one aspect, but then there is the closing component.
Mhm,
Two different hats that we have to wear.
mhm.
So again,
Absolutely.
well, with that said, I really thank both of you guys for taking the time and sharing with everybody just a little bit about your experience and your backgrounds. Again, there's no agenda here, ladies and gentlemen. My goal is for you guys to get information, real information from the people that are in the trenches with me, and that helps. It helps, other people that listen to these stories make a decision. If you're on the fence and you have questions, send me an email, reach out to me, go to my website. If you're a licensed agent, I'll invite you and you can shadow me. You can spend a day with me, 2 days, whatever it takes. Because at the end of the day, I want to give you enough information so that you can make a buying decision if this is an opportunity for you. And at the same time, it gives me an opportunity to see if you're the type of agent that I want to work with, because again, this opportunity isn't for everybody. This opportunity is for the hard workers, the self-motivated, and for all those people like Mr. Andrew and Amador that love the rush of making sales. And if that's you, give me an opportunity. Give me a call. I'll put you on. If you got 10 states, non-resident states, I'll send you 5 to 10 inbounds a day, Monday through Friday, of people that are interested in talking to you. And Amador in his training, he's gotten some freebies from me. And he would agree that these people are calling in looking for what? A final expense quote, man. Are they saying, I'm calling into the commercial, I'm ready to buy? You know what? In my dreams, that does happen, ladies and gentlemen. Then I wake up and I realize, uh-oh, I got to put it down. But these people are not calling in for, garbage. They're calling in for a quote. Now, are these leads perfect? No, because I will tell you one thing about inbounds is that when people are surfing the internet, and it typically happens with Facebook, they're on our page and they see the page, and then they scroll to the next thing, the next reel, and then sometimes they get confused. And then that confusion transfers over when they're making the call, or if they're talking to you, they get confused. But most of the time, again, our closing numbers prove it, but most of the time, these people are dead serious to talk to you and me about a burial policy. And that right there is the name of the game. So again, you guys have a great Tuesday. Thank you guys all so much for listening in. And if you're dead serious, give me a call. Peace.